Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes: activist in the West Bank says Israeli settlers abused him, plus Sarah Jama ejected from NDP caucus. She steps up economic support with new debt issuance, PBOC visit. Hong Kong court sides with same-sex couple over inheritance rights. Washington State Senator Jeff Wilson granted bail after arrest in Hong Kong for gun possession. Morning update: U.S. challenges Israeli ban on fuel supplies as Gaza siege intensifies. Activist in the West Bank says Israeli settlers abused him, plus Sarah Jama ejected from NDP caucus. The Toronto Star. Palestinians in the West Bank are reportedly facing an increase in violent harassment from Israeli settlers. This is in addition to the humanitarian disaster in Gaza, where Israeli bombardments have killed over 5,000 Palestinians. Mohammed Muttar, an activist who documents conflicts near illegal Israeli settlements, has shared his story of racist abuse at the hands of Israeli settlers and the Israeli military. She steps up economic support with new debt issuance, PBOC visit. Bloomberg. Chinese President Xi Jinping has raised China's budget deficit ratio to 3.8% of GDP for 2023, well above the previous limit of 3%, and visited the central bank in an unprecedented move. The changes came as the government looks to shore up the economy and financial markets and help the country hit its official growth goal of around 5% in 2023. The government plans to issue an additional 1 trillion Chinese yuan, $137 billion, of sovereign debt in Q4 2022 to fund disaster relief and construction. Hong Kong court sides with same-sex couple over inheritance rights. Washington Post. Hong Kong's Court of Appeal has upheld a decision granting equal inheritance rights to same-sex married couples, ruling that the city's existing inheritance laws are discriminatory. The case was brought by Henry Lee and his late husband Edgar Ng, who were married in the UK in 2017. The court ruled last year that same-sex married couples should enjoy the same legal protections as heterosexual couples, a decision that has now been upheld. The ruling is the latest in a series of incremental wins for LGBTQ rights in Hong Kong's judicial system. Washington State Senator Jeff Wilson granted bail after arrest in Hong Kong for gun possession. The Globe and Mail. Washington State Senator Jeff Wilson has been arrested in Hong Kong for carrying an unregistered gun. Wilson, a Republican, was stopped by customs officials after he and his wife landed in the city on Saturday. The senator claimed that he had discovered the weapon during the flight and had reported it to officials on landing. He was released on bail on Monday. Carrying a firearm without a license is illegal in Hong Kong and can be punished with a maximum 2-year prison sentence. Morning update: U.S. challenges Israeli ban on fuel supplies as Gaza siege intensifies. The Globe and Mail. The U.S. has challenged Israel's ban on fuel supplies to Gaza, warning that the ban will strangle the people of Gaza by halting water pumps and hospital operations within days. Israel has prevented aid supplies to Gaza that it suspects might benefit Hamas, and fuel has been a contentious issue. The U.S. has now added its voice to the criticism over the fuel ban. The U.S. National Security Council spokesperson said that fuel is needed to run power generators in hospitals and to run the pumps in desalination facilities so that people can drink fresh, healthy water. Israel has enforced restrictions on humanitarian assistance to the Gaza Strip. UN relief workers have warned that the ban on fuel will strangle the people of Gaza by halting water pumps and hospital operations within days. The UN has called for a lifting of the Israeli blockade, but Israel has refused to do so, arguing that it is necessary to prevent Hamas from acquiring weapons. Hong Kong's luxury home market may find little cheer in policy speech. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong's luxury housing market, which has been hit by a decline in Chinese economic activity, higher mortgage costs, and elevated global interest rates, is unlikely to see a boost from the government's property cooling measures. The transaction volume for properties valued at 20 million Hong Kong dollars, $2.56 million, or more fell 52% in Q3, while the capital value of luxury properties fell 0.3% year-to-date. These conditions, combined with uncertainty over interest rates and a weak outlook, could put further pressure on luxury home prices. Chinese appliance giant Midea Group files for Hong Kong listing. Bloomberg. Midea Group, China's largest home appliance maker, has filed for a Hong Kong listing, which could be one of the city's biggest in recent years. The company is aiming to list in Hong Kong next year and has chosen Bank of America and China International Capital Corporation as joint sponsors for the offering. Midea has a market value of around $51 billion, and its board approved a plan in August to explore selling up to 10% of its total capital in the Hong Kong float. This large offering would provide a much-needed boost to Hong Kong's IPO market, which has not seen a listing raising over $1 billion in over a year. China's Qin and Australian McEwen win Male and Female Swimmer of Year awards. South China Morning Post. Chinese swimmer Qin Haiyang and Australian swimmer Kaylee McEwen have been named Male and Female Swimmers of the Year by World Aquatics. Qin set World Cup records in the men's 50-meter, 100m, and 200-meter breaststroke races, and also set a world record for the 200-meter breaststroke at the World Aquatics Championships. McEwen became the first woman to hold each backstroke world record after breaking the 50m and 100m records at the World Cup. Both swimmers also achieved triple crowns at the World Cup and World Aquatics Championships. China's CNOOC's Q3 profit down 8% on year, despite higher output. Reuters. CNOOC, the Chinese national offshore oil and gas major, has reported an 8.13% fall in Q3 profit due to lower realized oil prices, despite higher output. Net profit fell to 33.88 billion Chinese yuan, $4.64 billion, while revenue increased by 5.5% to 114.8 billion Chinese yuan. Global oil prices have fallen since last year, however. CNOOC's total net oil and gas production rose 7% YOY to 167.8 million barrels of oil equivalent in Q3. The company has set a production target of a record 650 million to 660 million barrels of oil equivalent for 2023 as part of its medium-term goal of a 6% increase in average annual production by 2025. Mikhail Khodorkovsky says that American-led support for Israel should not come at the expense of Ukraine. Economist. The resolve of democratic states is being tested in extreme ways, with conflicts in Ukraine and Israel testing Western resolve. While Israel's war against Hamas is a test of Western resolve, it is also a distraction from Russia's campaign of terror against Ukraine, which has resulted in the deaths of civilians. The rise of rogue states, terrorism, and lawlessness indicates a breakdown in the rules-based international order. The U.S. needs to show robustness and leadership in order to maintain global peace and prevent further challenges to the global order. China's cross-border trips, visa issuances soar in post-pandemic rebound. South China Morning Post. China has issued over 600,000 visas to foreign visitors in Q3 2022, nearly 2.7 times the number from the same period last year, signaling a rebound in travel to pre-COVID levels. The National Immigration Administration reported a 454% jump in cross-border trips from July to September compared to the same period in 2021. Of the total trips, 61.68 million were made by Chinese citizens, and 8.01 million were made by foreigners who did not live in border cities. The delayed rebound in inbound travel has caused concerns about China's post-COVID recovery and its potential withdrawal into self-isolation. China has implemented measures to ease travel and boost international tourism, including visa-free entry schemes and the removal of the COVID-19 test requirement for inbound travelers. Jamie Dimon and other top bankers visit Saudi Arabia as Israel-Hamas war rages. CNN. Wall Street's top names, including J.P. Morgan and Citigroup, are attending Saudi Arabia's Future Investment Initiative, FII, despite increasing violence between Israel and Hamas. The event, also known as Davos in the Desert, will last for 3 days and has remained popular among investors regardless of escalating conflict. The Public Investment Fund (PIF) has grown in importance as a global investor, with its portfolio of international investments spanning Uber, Lucid and India's Jio platforms and Reliance Retail. The PIF's assets under management have grown to around $700 billion, from $250 billion in 2018. Hong Kong's Templewater to acquire Lui Medical's Singapore health units. Yahoo! Hong Kong private equity firm Templewater is set to acquire Lui Medical Group's oncology and cardiology businesses in Singapore. The purchase of OncoCare Medical and Novena Heart Center will be Templewater's inaugural investment in the healthcare sector. The firm specializes in mid-market controlled buyouts in the Asia-Pacific region, as well as investment services in other asset classes such as real estate. Jancher on coping with dad's suicide, king of grass status, kitschy ambition. South China Morning Post. Austrian forward Jacob Jancher has said he believes his father, who died in 2011, would be proud of his career in football. Jancher, who plays for Kitschy in Hong Kong, joined the club after a spell with Sturm Graz. The 34-year-old said his father had been his greatest supporter and had pushed him to his highest level. Jancher has also spent time in Russia, the Netherlands, Switzerland and Turkey, and has 23 international caps. China, India, or Japan, which offers the best hope for investors in 2024? South China Morning Post. Investors in Asia are looking to Japan and India as alternative growth stories following disappointing economic data from China. Japan has seen strong foreign portfolio investment flows throughout the year, with consumer spending rising and optimism that productivity and capital efficiency concerns will be addressed. Meanwhile, India is attracting investor interest due to its attractive demographics, with a large, youthful population that has the potential for greater productivity and economic growth. However, both Japan and India face risks, including the end of Japan's yield curve control policy and the potential failure of India to create enough jobs and expand its manufacturing sector. That's all for today's news roundup from the 6 Degrees Briefing. I'm Dr. Six, your friendly neighborhood observer from the 6 Degrees world. Let's take a moment to recap today's stories. First, we heard about the increase in violent harassment faced by Palestinians in the West Bank from Israeli settlers. This comes in the midst of the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. It's important to shed light on these injustices and support those who are fighting for justice and equality. Next, we learned that Chinese President Xi Jinping has raised China's budget deficit ratio and visited the central bank in an effort to support the economy and financial markets. This move reflects the government's efforts to achieve its growth goals and provide relief for disaster-stricken areas. In Hong Kong, the Court of Appeal has upheld a decision granting equal inheritance rights to same-sex married couples, marking another win for LGBTQ rights in the city's judicial system. On the other hand, a Washington state senator was arrested in Hong Kong for carrying an unregistered gun, highlighting the strict firearm regulations in the region. The U.S. has challenged Israel's ban on fuel supplies to Gaza, warning of the dire consequences it could have on the people's access to water and healthcare. It's crucial for the international community to address the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza and advocate for the lifting of the Israeli blockade. Hong Kong's luxury housing market is facing challenges due to declining economic activity, higher mortgage costs, and elevated global interest rates. These conditions, coupled with uncertainty over interest rates and a weak outlook, could put further pressure on luxury home prices. In other news, Midea Group, China's largest home appliance maker, has filed for a Hong Kong listing, potentially boosting the city's IPO market. Chinese swimmer Qin Haiyang and Australian swimmer Kaylee McEwen have been named Male and Female Swimmers of the Year by World Aquatics, showcasing their impressive achievements in the sport. CNOOC, the Chinese national offshore oil and gas major, has reported a fall in Q3 profit despite higher output, mainly due to lower realized oil prices. Finally, we discussed the importance of Western resolve in the face of conflicts in Ukraine and Israel, as well as the rebound of cross-border trips and visa issuances in China. That's all for today's news. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your ideas and opinions on these stories? Feel free to join the discussion and ask any questions you may have. Remember, in the 6 Degrees world, your voice matters. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.